So welcome to our scheduling workshop. My name is Amir Benassa. I'm responsible for marketing at Plataine. And here with me today is David Guido, our specialist in planning and scheduling. We have here quite an extensive online workshop and course for you. We will touch up on quite interesting topics. And we will leave enough time towards the end for our Q&A sessions. So we invite you to participate via the chat and submit your questions to the Q&A box. Your cameras and mics will be turned on during the Q&A session so we can have an open discussion. If you have any comment or any question for me or for David, please submit it, and we'll make sure to leave enough time to have those conversations and answer your questions the best we can. Let's look at today's agenda. But before that, allow me to introduce our special speaker for today. David Guido is an Industry 4 expert with over 15 years of experience in planning, consulting to manufacturing and industrial sector, helping a lot of factories to meet their goals and exceed their plans. Thank you, David, for taking the time and joining us today.
Thank you very much.
So we have a very busy agenda for today, and in the coming hours, we are about to cover the different challenges that we see in production planning. What are the key elements that we should consider while preparing the upcoming schedule? See the different business goals and KPIs. How do we measure the efficiency of a specific schedule? That's an important topic. What are the different methods and tools for planning and scheduling? We'll touch on, why is it important for the shop floor and top floor to collaborate? Speak about AI and automation. And, as mentioned, we'll have the Q&A session towards the end, so we can take all your questions and discuss some topics that you would like us to go deeper and touch with more detail. Make sure to stay with us till the end, because we're about to cover some very interesting topics, whether those are planning best practices, whether we'll talk about, what is the power of AI. We've seen a lot of AI applications recently with ChatGPT, but we'll touch on the point how AI can help in planning and scheduling and whether this is relevant for the manufacturing world, how to streamline the planning process, and we'll accompany all of those with some real-life example. David and I travel a lot, and we've seen hundreds of customers, and we'll share today with you some of the real-life industry examples that we encounter. So, with no further ado, let's touch on the first topic, David. We've seen a lot of companies with higher requirements than ever, whether this is sustainability, whether this is growing demand. What can you share with us that are the most recent challenges in production planning?
Yeah, thank you, Amir. Thank you for the warm welcoming. It's a pleasure to be here and to run this webinar. And let's quickly start with the challenges. So we all live in a very fast-paced world. We all know about the constant need to ramp up, no matter what industry you are, increase demand and increase scale. Along with addressing supply chain disruptions that we are all familiar with, continuous growth across industries is expected in 2025 and onwards. And of course, we always talk about sustainability standards, which gain more focus. and you're also aware of some labor shortages that are always there. So the first challenge that we want to cover is the planning complexity, of course. And when we talk about planning, it's always a multi-dimensional or a multi-level problem, as I like to call it. And you need to manage those multiple dimensions, whether it is the resource capacity and availability, the deadlines, the demand set and the due dates, your business constraints and goals, and on top or at the bottom or at the foundation is your company rules and goals. And of course, supply chain dependency and material availability is always there, and balancing between short-term and long-term requirements as well. So, next challenge is respond to changes. And it's something at the heart of any plan or any planner day-to-day job. You live in a dynamic production environment and you need to respond to any changes or unplanned event, unpredicted disruptions, lack of visibility. It takes time to identify the problem to begin with, and then you need to respond and to adjust your planning all the time. And insufficient communication and collaboration doesn't help when you need to respond to those changes and to take decisions, of course. The third challenge is that today your business rules and knowledge base are pretty much analog. You have data silos in your departments and department leaders, and there is lack of integration between those, inconsistent or outdated information. And of course, the lack of digital records when we're talking about your business rules, your tools and resource location and availability and service condition, material location and availability, workforce, whether it is operators, and so on.
I think that this is an important topic you've touched. You know, the tribal knowledge that every department leader or some, very experienced folks on the production floor, they know a lot, but that knowledge sometimes is completely in their heads or on paper. And I fully agree with you that, every company's first goal is to bring that knowledge and that tribal knowledge to be digital so everyone could enjoy from that knowledge.
Centralize and manage and put it somewhere that is available for everyone. So covering those elements and the challenges, covering those challenges, let's move on to the elements that build successful planning. Okay, so as I told you earlier, this is a multi-dimensional or multi-level problem, and we need to address it and account it as so. So at the top, there is the demand set, and we'll cover in depth each one of those, but just so we cover them to begin with, we have the demand set, we have the inventory on hand, resource, capacity and availability, whether it is a station, a tool, or any other resource. And at the ground sits your business rules and constraints based on your goals, based on your strategy. A good software or a good schedule should take account on all of those. And at the end, produce an optimized plan, which tell you a very simple thing. Which orders will be processed, when, with which material or with which assets, and on which machine or which operator. So let's cover.
I have a question, David. What
Sure.
happens if you're not taking into consideration one element, or you ignore the inventory, for example? So then what?
Good question. Any element or any level in this problem, if you ignore it, you will get a plan or a schedule which is not valid or not optimal, and it will be difficult to follow. And at the end of the day, it will get to a halt and to a stop at the shop floor, and you don't want it to happen. So you need to consider all of those elements when building your plan. So the first element is the demand set. And as planners, you're all familiar with it. It's the collection of your work orders, We like to call it the demand set, the production orders, the sales orders. But at the end of the day, is what you expect or the factory expect to be scheduled and execute at the shop floor. And it reflects the demands over a specific period of time, of course. And again, as we said, accuracy is very important. You need to be aligned with your customers' needs. Okay, you need to know about your quantities, your due dates, and your requirements in order to achieve a valid plan and optimized. And before I'm talking about optimization, we need to start with a valid plan that the shop floor could be able to execute. Of course, the challenges are variability in demand, rush orders, conflicting priorities, and so on. I can give you a couple of tips to help you with those challenges, and you can focus on demand forecasting, use your historical data and market trends, collaborate closely with your sales and marketing, and prioritize better your workforce. Okay, the next element is resource capacity and availability. So, as I said, you need to understand your resource capacity in order to be able to schedule those work orders. So, the total capacity and availability of your organization, of your factory, of your department across an horizon that you want to schedule. And this includes resource, workforce, equipment, or any other dimension that is required for your scheduling. And again, it's a multidimensional. So we're talking about time, resource constraint, operational shifts, and so on. And again, the challenge is balancing capacity with demand and managing short-term versus long-term. Moving on. So how can you optimize your resource capacity and availability? So first, you can use a capacity planning tool. Simulate capacity scenarios. What if I will add more shifts or another shift? Or what if I will increase the number of operators? This will allow you to better optimize your resource allocation and prepare for what's coming. And again, as I said, a multidimensional problem requires a multidimensional analysis. So evaluate your capacity across timeframes. What's good or correct for next week might not be valid for the week after. Okay, and always address constraint and bottlenecks. And it doesn't mean it ends there. You constantly need to monitor your capacities and availability and update those regularly to meet with the changing demand set. Okay, if you remember at the bottom, we had the business rules and constraint, and we know that these are your organizational knowledge, as Amir said. Those are your expertise, and they combine unique processes, your tribal knowledge, or unwritten knowledge. And it matters because it ensures consistent and practical, efficient planning, okay? You cannot base your scheduling on capacity only, or on availability only, or on the demand set only. Those tribal knowledge is important, if not the most important thing, because if one shift at one department always end 1 hour before the regular shift end time on Monday, this is something that you need to account for, and this goes for your tribal knowledge.
I'm also hearing a lot of stories like if an operation takes another half an hour, then they would allow it in the shift, to stay for an extra half an hour. But, if it takes an extra 3 hours, they'll probably plan it to be executed on the next day, right? So those kind of things are very important to document and to collect and consider.
Exactly, and we can spend an hour on all those little things or uniquenesses or special tribal knowledge that we hear constantly from different factories. And it's very important to capture those in your plan, in your schedule, in order, again, to receive or to get a valid plan and schedule that at the end of the day, the shop floor will be able to follow. Okay, so some strategies for capturing business rules, as we said. Document key processes, okay? Use standard operation procedures, which are regularly updates and being reviewed, okay? We need to keep those updated. Use knowledge management systems. Centralize those expertise and best practices in a single location, which is accessible for all teams or for all departments or for all stakeholders in that manner. And constantly run regular staff training and encourage knowledge sharing between those departments.
Yeah, that's a great summary of the topic. So our next topic is around KPIs and business goals. I mean, we know that every factory, operates a little bit different. However, there are many common goals, to our industry and to manufacturing in general. There's on-time delivery. There's, the need to keep things on schedule. So, David, what are the different KPIs that you see when you're visiting different factories?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and there are many. And we can ask ourselves, what makes a plan optimal? Okay, so is it high resource utilization, OE and alike? Is it low operational costs? Is it due date compliance and on-time delivery? Or is it agility and the ability to quickly respond to changes? And probably all of those matter, and some are more important and some are less in each and every one of your businesses. But the thing that we see that there are many KPIs, and the thing is to link between KPIs and business goals and make sure you balance those competing goals. So you can see that in many times efficiency trade-offs is coming in the expense of flexibility, and quality versus cost. And your job is to take the strategic decision and prioritize based on current business needs, and always make sure you evaluate the impact on the long-term objectives. An optimal plan should be a smart combination of several KPIs ranked by priority based on your business requirement. And it must support the overall business strategy. It always must boost profitability and growth. And you should always continuously measure it and improvement as things changes in your business. So regularly review and adjust your KPIs.
All right, that's great. So, when I'm meeting with planners and shift managers, I keep hearing, backward scheduling, forward scheduling. There's a lot of methods when you tackle the creation of plan. David, can you put some order on those terms and explain what's the best, or maybe there's no winning method?
Absolutely. Okay. So as you said, there are many scheduling methods, and we will cover the top 4 that we see commonly used across industries. And as you can see, those are backward scheduling, forward scheduling, scheduling around, and focusing on bottleneck based resources. And again, keep in your mind that the importance is in choosing the right method, and you have to make sure that it is aligned with your business goals, and at the end of the day, it optimizes the utilization and efficiency of your overall production based on the prediction of those methods that you've choose. Okay, so the first one is backward scheduling, a very common one. let's quickly define and see what are the advantages and disadvantages of each method. So when backward scheduling, you always start with a desired end date and work backward. Pretty straightforward. Determine when a task must start to meet the deadline. So if you do that right, you will know what is the latest time that you need to start a task in order to meet your due dates. The advantages, of course, is you ensure on-time delivery and you focus on customer due dates. Disadvantages, it requires accurate deadline forecasting, and it is less flexible in handling changes. So, for example, if a due date changes, or you receive a rush order or an unplanned event, it will be very difficult to adjust. The next one, and I think the most commonly used, is the forward scheduling. And again, let's define it quickly. You begin scheduling from the current date in any given horizon, and you assign tasks based on resource availability and the duration time that you predict for each operation or for each task. And the advantages, it allows you to maximize resource utilization. It provides a clear production timeline. The disadvantages that it might result in earlier than needed completion, but this is usually something that planners takes advantage of and use it as buffers. Okay. It also has the potential for idle time if not well managed, but again, you can use that idle time for maintenance, for buffering, and so on. It is more easy, or it's easier to respond to changes because you work forward, and usually you have time at the end of your schedule. But this is also has some disadvantages regarding responding into changes. Okay. Scheduling around. Okay, this is a more complex method. The previous one could be managed using manual approaches, but this will probably require a more sophisticated tool or solution. But let's quickly define it. So it's a flexible method for adjusting around key events or key constraints, often used for managing high priority or last minute tasks. So for example, you receive a rush order, you fix it, and then you reschedule everything around it. And the advantages is, of course, it adapts to unexpected changes, and you are prioritizing your critical tasks and resources. Disadvantages, it requires real-time monitoring, and it's very difficult to achieve using legacy solutions like paper or Excels. And you have complexity in balancing multiple priorities because you basically ignore all the other priorities and you focus on the event that you want to prioritize. Bottleneck-based scheduling, it's a subset of the previous one, but it's very important because sometimes we see factories and organizations want to focus on a given resource or a bottleneck or a constraint in the process. So for example, an autoclave or the QA department, which lack personnel, and you ensure that the bottleneck is the most efficient step and then work around it. So it's kind of like scheduling around, but focusing on the bottleneck instead. The advantages, improves overall system throughput, reduce delays caused by the bottleneck if you identify it correctly. And the disadvantages is, again, false identification of bottlenecks, moving bottlenecks or multiple bottlenecks. If you have a couple of bottlenecks, it will be difficult to use this approach. And again, it requires continuous monitoring and optimization. Okay, so we believe that the most efficient approach is the hybrid approach or the multi-level approach that combines all those methods. So using a mix of scheduling approaches, again, to fit each and every scenarios or the complexity of your business. And you need to tailor the method to the specific project. You as a planner need to tailor it to the specific project, the specific department, or the specific site or organization that you schedule for. Using an automated software, it's much easier because the software does that for you based on your KPI. And we see shift of the responsibility from the human, from the planner to the AI solutions, which basically tests hundreds and thousands of different solutions and find the optimal one for you. And let me show you how that is working. So we're all aware of the AI revolution, and I wanted to show you how it meets the production scheduling. Okay, so we constantly see it in ChatGPT, in Copilot, in Midjourney, and a lot of AI that we see today. In advanced AI scheduling, the algorithm is based on learning. It constantly learns and optimizes those trade-offs that we mentioned before. And it do the balance for you between the business goals and rules. And the schedule is both optimal and practical to execute. And on the right hand, you can see a good example of that. So you can see in plan A, we have a good utilization score, we have a good make span score, and on-time delivery. But that's clearly come on the expense of energy consumption, throughput, and the number of total assigned tasks. And if we take a look at plan C, again, it's more focused on the number of assigned tasks and throughput, but again, it has its own trade-off. So your make span is probably worse. It takes more time in overall, and your on-time deliveries probably get affected as well. And plan B, it's kind of the most balanced out of these three that I've prepared. But just to give you the sense, these are only three options. Usually a human planner can produce 1 or 2 plans and it takes days. The AI, as we see it today, they are able to produce thousands of solutions in a matter of seconds. And it picks the best one for you based on the KPI and the goals that you've set currently. And if you want to change strategy or you change your goals, or at the last quarter of the year, you want to focus on delivery, you can adjust it. You will receive different results. And this is the strength of AI, and this is the advancement that we see in those areas.
Wow, that's exciting. So, moving on, I mean, you visited manufacturing sites in the UA, in Europe, in the UK, in Asia, and what are the different tools that planners and people who are making the weekly schedules or the monthly schedules, what are they using? Could you elaborate on that, please?
Yes, of course. So I've seen them all across the globe, basically. And we see a lot of methods, a lot of tools, but the main ones are the traditional are Excel, spreadsheets, whether it's Google or Excel or Microsoft, paper and whiteboards. Some more modern solutions like dedicated software, and we are now starting to see AI solutions as well. So let me quickly cover those top 3, okay? And let's start with the most common one, the spreadsheets. And the reason it is the common one is it's widely spread. It's already there on your computers. Everyone uses it. Everyone are familiar with it. It's highly customizable and flexible, and it supports some complexity of data and which can reflect your business and production complexity. Of course, the limitation is time. It is time consuming. It's prone to human errors. It basically has no collaboration features whatsoever. Publishing a plan is very difficult, and reviewing and make sure the execution is correct is almost not there. One of the biggest problem that we see is sometimes those spreadsheets can grow to monstrous sizes, and it's become very difficult to maintain. Each scheduling can take a couple of days. Only the planner understands. Once it is published to the shop floor, the operators, it's very difficult for them to follow. And I'm not talking about changes, because changes only lives in your Excel, and republishing is almost impossible. In addition, we see another approach, which is using whiteboards across production floor or white paper based planning. And again, the advantages, it is simple, intuitive, almost no cost involved, and it's actually encouraged team brainstorming when we're talking about whiteboards. But again, the limitations are quite the same. There is no digital backup and no tracking. It's very difficult to scale using those methods and those tools. No real-time updates unless you, the planner, walk down the shop floor reviewing each whiteboard. And the minute you leave your department, if they made another change, you're unaware of it until your next trip to the shop floor. And of course, has no validation capabilities whatsoever. Your constraints, your business rules, your KPI will not be addressed in those in white paper and in whiteboards. On the other hand, we have the advanced planning scheduling solutions. And of course, the advantages is that they are able to specialize. They have specialized features for planning and scheduling. They are dedicated for this task. You can see real-time data integration and updates across your factory, whether it is from ERP, MES, or any other system that you deployed in your business. It enhanced collaboration and communication across teams, across departments, across factories. We saw customers using scheduling first to schedule their workload for a given factory, but also to gain visibility on sister factories that needs to know what's going on in a different branch. It increases planning efficiency, so you as a planner can focus on what really matters. Planning is taking a couple of minutes, hours, rather than days, and you have more time to fine-tune and to make sure that your plan is being executed. And of course, I think the most important one, it supports your scaling. So if you're about to scale, or you want to add more product, or you want to produce new things, the system grows with you. Scaling is very easy. It's actually embedded in the nature of those solutions. To be honest, we have some disadvantages, such as the cost of the software. It is dependent on digital infrastructure, but usually you already have it in your business, and it requires training. But the way I see it, those solutions are very easy to understand, very intuitive, so training can be done in no time, basically. Okay, so to conclude, your team deserves the best APS solution, okay? And at the end of the day, you, as the planner, has a very complex job. You have to take all those elements, everything, all those challenges that we talked about, and put them into a schedule. So make sure you choose the right solution for you that meets your complexity of operation, the team size, and your collaboration requirement.
That's great. Now, we know that a plan is not something static. You create a plan, but then it changes, it moves. And in our next section, David, could you talk a little bit about the life cycle stages and what distinguishes each step and step?
Of course. So after we scheduled, we produced the plan. It doesn't end there. And again, your job as a planner is constantly monitoring and maintaining this plan throughout its life cycle until the next plan, and then goes the next iteration and the next plan and the next schedule. So when you follow this life cycle, it ensures a continuous alignment with the business goal. No one neglects nothing, no one forget about nothing, and you are very close and tight in managing your plans. It facilitates proactive management and production schedules. And let's overview the stages of a plan's life cycle. Starting with planning, as we said. So, summarizing everything we covered until now, getting the data from whatever data point that matters to your operation, whether it is ERP, MES, paper, department leaders, or any other solution. Discover the current progress. Okay, so a good plan starts with awareness of what you achieved last week. And if you remember in the live demo I've just showed, we saw we were clearly able to see what happened last week or in the last horizon that we want to cover. Based on this discovery and this progress, we can start talking about and consider your capacities, your workforce availability, and production times. And on top, you can start and build your plan. So some best practices to achieve that. Use advanced planning tools if applicable. Cross-functional collaboration, okay? You cannot do it by yourself. You need to collaborate with the department leaders, with the stakeholders. They basically, they are the ones that will have to execute your plan. Do some risk management, okay? Data-driven decision making. Always make sure that you take decision based on the most updated data that you can. And if it is applicable and you can do it, some sustainability consideration. And if you remember, we touched it when I showed you the KPIs earlier. So the next step in the life cycle is publishing the plan. Okay, so you need to finalize it, approve it with the department leaders, with the stakeholders, make sure everyone are aligned, communicating the plan, and ensuring the accessibility and visibility across the team. So it's not just email the Excel to the department leader and that's it. You have to make sure that they are constantly aware to changes and are working with you on the same path throughout the life cycle. Some best practices: clear documentation and communication channels. I see a lot in factories that you have your planners have their morning meetings or shift meetings or weekly meetings just to make sure everyone are aligned with the plan that you are responsible of. Okay, next step is executing the plan. This is happening on the shop floor, obviously, and you have to make sure the implementation of the plan to the shop floor, assigning each task and each resource as per schedule. So again, it's not just emailing the plan or hanging the paper or writing it on the whiteboard. You have to make sure that the tasks are really assigned and people takes responsibility on their tasks. And of course, this could be done by coordinating with the teams. Some best practices, clear task delegation and responsibility assignment. Okay, make sure everyone is aware of their tasks. And effective resource management and utilization. This is something that you will have to collaborate with the department leaders. Moving on. So after we start executing the plan, you as a planner will have to monitor it constantly and track progress in real time. Monitor key performance indicators, those KPIs that we talked about, making sure that everything goes according to the plan. Identifying any deviations or issues that needs your attention. And to achieve that, you can use dashboards, real-time tracking tools, make sure that everyone reports back to your Excel, to your spreadsheets, that your whiteboards are updated, and regularly status update and reviews, as we said, in your morning meetings, in your shifts meeting, in your weekly meetings. This will allow you to adjust the plan and to respond to changes or disruptions as needed. And again, always re-communicate back the changes to all stakeholders. You can do it using a software solution, email, re-sending those spreadsheets, and as I said earlier, in your meetings. And just to conclude, at the beginning of the week or the beginning of the horizon, you start with a plan, but then reality comes knocking on your door and things spiral down. And we always know that in a real production shop floor, things can go wrong, things need to be changed, need to be addressed, and this is your job as a planner. So,
with the touch of a button, or even, if you set up automation rules, then it would happen in the background.
Yeah.
So there's the cause, right? There's a service cycle, a maintenance cycle for autoclave happening, and then the AI responds and reschedule those tasks to different resources or to a later date, right?
Exactly. Once you digitize the process, you can build on top. And the only thing that needs to be done is that the autoclave department leader decommission or set a new availability or remove the shifts, and automation kicks in. And sometimes it could happen in the background. No planner should ever hit the auto schedule again. The system noticed that we've changed availability, reschedule everything. You come tomorrow morning or next week and you receive a new schedule for your shop floor.
Great. So let's talk about the shop floor and top floor collaboration. I mean, we are meeting planners on one hand, we are meeting operators. They use different systems, whether this is spreadsheets on the side of the planners and MES systems that the operators would use. They would meet from time to time in the end of the shift just to update. But what can you tell us about this important collaboration and what needs to happen in order to, create a smooth operations that would streamline production?
Of course. Okay, so as you said, collaboration is very important. Let's quickly cover the challenges. And you heard me say it in previously. We need to be aligned with strategic goals and operational execution. So the shop floor needs to be operated so it will be aligned with your goals. Misalignment of priorities, another challenge, misalignment of priorities and goals between management, departments, and operators, lack of communication, The top floor uses emails. The shop floor uses papers. So you all need to be on the same page or on the same tool when communicating. Difficulty in tracking and managing the data. Okay, so again, you report on your ERP or on your MES, the top floor is using their software, and you have no visibility and no transparency between shop floor and top floor. And at the end of the day, discrepancies between planned and actual at the production. You planned for that work order to be executed next week. The department leader decided that it should be produced today. So you need to be aligned. Everyone needs to report, so you will have a great visibility and transparency. So some tools for effective collaboration. Okay, so as I said before, regular cross-functional meetings, whether it is your daily meetings, your weekly meetings, your schedule review meetings, and so on. Make sure those meetings are happening. Integrated systems for real-time data sharing. If those systems can talk to each other, the APS update the MES. The MES report backs to the APS, and those two are integrated with your ERP. You will have full visibility and transparency across the process, across production. Clear, consistent communication channels, as you do it today: email, Slack, Teams, even next to the coffee machine. It's always good to keep those communications channels open. And cloud solutions that enables team collaboration, as you saw earlier in the live demo. If I report something in the system, everyone is aware of it. I don't need to publish anything. It's already there on the cloud, available for everyone.
That's great. Now, you've mentioned the complexity and the fast pace of things. Let's spend some time on automation and, how can you set rules and trigger and to automate the entire process, and whether this is even possible?
Sure, of course. So if you're already using an APS system or an AI system, you can move to the next level. Okay, you can start using automation, and I see it starting to happen in the last couple of years, especially with my customers. We see factories moving toward automation. So let's cover first why we want to do that. Okay, so automation reduces the manual effort and error. So it reduces the risk, the effort from you, the planners. Okay, you don't need to constantly be on the lookout for new work orders, for changes. Okay, it enhances the efficiency and productivity because automation responds faster than you. It responds automatically. And it considers rules, constraints, priorities, and KPIs that you, the planner, sets. And again, it lets you be focused on the most important things. Set the rules, set the constraints, set the KPIs. The automation, the hard work, let's leave it for the AI and for the automation tools. So some key benefits: faster decision making can happen during the night or whenever a work order comes in. It is optimized the use of existing resources, and there gives you basically real-time responsiveness, actual real-time responsiveness. The minute a new work order comes in, based on your rules, it will be automatically scheduled or reschedule or give you an alert, but the responsiveness is real time. Some key benefits of AI powered APS. Again, The optimization level allows you to maximize resource utilization, allows you to balance workload and reduce bottlenecks. It increases predictability and lowering the risk when it comes to changes or unplanned event. And it gives you full visibility between departments, buildings, and facilities. As I told you, I have a customer that uses our system to enhance visibility between factories in different locations. That those factories needs to feed each other. Flexibility quickly adapts to changes in demand or capacity. Real-time rescheduling to handle disruption. And of course, as I said earlier, this is the only tool or the only category of tool that really allows you to scale, whether you're a small or medium business looking to becoming a large production environments. And yeah, it integrates seamlessly with your existing systems.
Oh, that's great. Very powerful. Okay, so we've reached the point where we can take and answer some questions. Looking at the Q&A box here, I already have a couple of questions here, which is great. And, you know, guys, feel free to submit more questions if you have, or more, you know, topics that you would like us to cover. The first question is from Nigel. Thank you, Nigel. Is the capacity planning simulation run separately without disrupting existing production schedule? David, what's your take on you know, simulation running? You talked about long-term planning.
Yeah, it's a good question. Yes, it runs separately, and basically using our system, you can replicate any number of simulation based on your production environment. So you have your production environment set, you can replicate it, it will run separately, you can do any changes that you want, you can add a resource, you can remove a resource, you can add shifts, you can keep your digital twin the same, but add more work orders to see how you can cope with increasing demand set. You can do all of that, and at the end of the day, you can shut down the sandbox and return to your existing environment, which is untouched.
Okay, so you're saying that, you know, that sandbox environment for what-if scenarios and, you know, running all those simulations will not impact, you know, your production environment, so you can try crazy stuff. Yeah. You know, see, you know, maybe justify an investment, a future investment, or see how you can handle, you know, more jobs. But eventually, only what you would like. I mean, your production environment is not affected.
Yeah, we have customers use that to quantify and justify new resources. I'm not talking about new lines, even a new tool. You need to commission a new tool production, and you can see how that tool will affect the overall throughput of your ecosystem. Or you can add one more shift in one department and see how it releases the bottleneck from that department, for example. So you can go crazy with sandboxing and simulating.
Oh, that's powerful. Thanks. Another question from Anna. Thanks. How can you balance competing businesses and operational goals during the scheduling process? I think this is relating to the competing goals and what you discussed earlier.
Yeah, of course. So balancing, as we said, it's very important, and I can give you a couple of tips on how to balance those. So first of all, prioritization. Okay, determine which goals are the most critical to the business, and prioritize them in the scheduling process. So, for example, if you remember the live demo, we prioritized due date compliance. That means that our schedule, or at least a KPI that we measure, are more focused toward due date. Make sure you do the trade-off analysis, assess basically the trade-off between different goals, okay? So if you focus on due date, we will probably get affected on resource utilization. And you can do some scenario planning and so on. At the end of the day, if you have a good scheduling system or an APS or an AI driven, even better, it will allow you to balance competing goals and to set those priority automatically within the system, within the algorithm, whether you are focused on the cost, delivery, or any other resource utilization. Those APS systems can evaluate various scenarios for you and pick the best one for you, as we said.
Okay, thank you. Next question is from Chloe. Thank you. Can you please explain how you balance between short-term and long-term needs?
Okay. So let's say a rush order comes in, you will probably have to change your priorities that you've set for the goals. Okay, so we are no longer focusing on due date. You will have to pick another goal to focus on. So you might be wanting to focus on minimizing the make spend. But again, it depends on each and every scenario, and you will have to do the analysis, prioritize those goals, and see the trade-off between those, and pick the best one for your production.
And the thing you mentioned earlier with the sandbox simulation, I guess that that also comes into play when you want to test all kinds of scenarios and then balance between what I'm doing in the coming weeks against what I'm doing in the next month or what's my purchasing strategy, right?
Yeah, if you have the time, you can sit back in your office and run as many simulations as you want. Yeah, I would suggest focusing on the upcoming based on your demand forecasting, as we said at the beginning of the webinar. So if you are in contact and collaborating with your sales department, you will be able to forecast better your demand set for the next month, for the next quarter, and then you can play in the sandbox. You can add more resources. You can say, what if I will buy more tools? What if I will add one more shift to the QA department? Is it going to release the bottleneck? What if I will run the autoclave for 1 more hour each shift? Or I will allow overtime in the layup department. So all those little changes and scenarios can be addressed in a good sandbox environment.
That's great. Another question we have here: does the autoclave scheduler take into account different cure profiles to group components for processing in the autoclave together? So about recipes, I guess, those kind of things.
Yeah, it's a good question. So, but not only the autoclave. Basically, in our system and in good APS systems, you are able to group by anything, almost anything. So the most common thing is by recipe, and you can do it in curing processes, in autoclave machines, but this also goes for painting and many other operations. But yes, it's very easy to set at the process definition, at the sequence definition. You can say that this curing process has to be done only with that recipe, and from now on, only those type of tasks will go inside the autoclave, and this will be accounted when scheduling.
Great. How do you manage bottlenecks in the production process?
Yeah, so as we said at the beginning of the webinar, first you have to identify those bottlenecks. And once you identify those correctly, you can now address it. You can say you want to schedule around the bottleneck, as we said, or you can take it to the next level and you will try to release the bottleneck with more shifts and so on. And again, this can also be tested in a sandbox environment, as we said.
Can the AI help you identify those bottlenecks? Like you see that resource is in full capacity week and week over, as opposed to other resources that are, waiting for jobs?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that I see happens when we first schedule, when we first publish a schedule made by the AI with our customers, is that I don't understand what's going on. It's a complete tangle of tasks laid down on the Gantt. But for the planner, it's a magic. They immediately see and understand, and it looks organic and valid for them. And they, at a glance, just by the increased visibility that the AI system gave you using the Gantt, can immediately pinpoint those bottlenecks and identify it. So once you have it all portrayed on a good Gantt that gives you visibility, you as a planner will immediately identify the bottlenecks, the pain points, and the areas that needs to be focused on.
Gotcha. Okay, I mean, those are all the questions submitted in our Q&A box. So first of all, thank you for submitting those interesting questions. Before we conclude the session, folks, any more questions that you have in mind? That's your last chance to submit, or you can open your mic and ask a question, and David and I will do our best to address the topic. Okay, seems that all the rest is crystal clear, so thank you. David, thank you. I mean, it was an incredibly interesting workshop. I learned a lot, and if we can, summarize this interesting hour and a half. So basically, we learned today that planning is getting more and more complex. There's increase in demand, more parts that you need to produce on every production line, smarter machines, and basically the planning process takes days and days, and it's pretty much complex. Next, a good plan should consider several elements and dimensions, right? We talked about,
the levels,
about the material, the availability, resources, the company rules, the business rules, right? So that kind of puts more complexity on the planner's shoulders.
On the planners, yes.
We've learned that, goals could be competing, right? So if you focus too much on one thing, you could miss, one of your targets. So we should balance and find the trade-offs, and the power of those new AI solutions is that they can, once they get your setup and your preferences, they could run millions of permutations and versions and offer you the best and most optimal schedule, which is encouraging. There's no one planning method, the one size fits all, right? You have to use several topics or several methods in order to continuously optimize your weekly schedules. And, it's a tough job that also here, and AI could help. And, you don't have to decide whether you choose forward scheduling or backward scheduling. The system just would provide you with the best in class schedule that would perfectly fit this week. And you just need to review it and approve it or modify it as you wish. Of course, shop floor, top floor collaboration is key, essential for the organization's success. And we've seen more and more factories that invest in those field. And basically, automation is key. We know that everybody is busy. If something could be automated and spare our time so we can deal with the production, deal with the planning, deal with strategic decisions, then we have more time for those important tasks. We are not running around our tail. We're not putting off fire, but rather we now have the time to think, okay, what happens if I open a third shift? What happens if we can justify the purchase of a new tool, analyze bottlenecks, resolve that, right? So definitely automation is key here. And I think that's what I liked from your presentation is that in the end of the day, the team deserves the best tool. And if I'm a Formula One racing driver, I would like to get the best racing car, right? Whether that's a Red Bull or a Ferrari or whatever it is, Mercedes. And of course, the planners and the operators deserve the best cloud-based and AI-powered APS tool. So, David, many thanks for that.
Thank you.
If you'd like to further contact us and ask more questions or discuss any topic on your mind, our emails are here. You can also scan this QR code to get more information. And with that, I'm very happy to conclude our planning and scheduling advanced workshop.
Thank you, Amir.
Thank you, David, for being with us, and thanks to all our wonderful audience for sharing your time and staying with us. And until next time, thanks and goodbye.
Thank you.